What is vaginismus? So vaginismus, or geneto-pelvic pain penetration disorder, GPPPD, is when vaginal penetration is impossible or difficult. You may have also heard of dyspareunia, and that's when sex is painful. And so vaginismus is no longer a separate diagnosis in the DSM. It's under that umbrella category of GPPPD, as is dyspareunia. So you have GPPPD, vaginismus, dyspareunia. It's, a little confusing, and it's really hard to say GPPPD. You lose track of the P's. And so for the sake of this, we're just going to say vaginismus, because if we say dyspareunia, you leave out a whole bunch of people whose goal is not penetrative sex. So vaginismus encapsulates everything. And I also like that term talks more about the various levels that are involved with what's truly happening in the pelvic floor and in the body when we experience unwanted or impossible or painful penetration. So I refer to painful or impossible vaginal insertion as vaginismus. I think this word does a better job at grasping the various levels of what's involved and what's really happening with the pelvic floor and in the body. And then just a side note, I really hate the word penetration. When does that ever bring about a positive kind of response or connotation? So I prefer using the word insertion or vaginal acceptance rather than saying penetration. We'll say it every now and then because that's what society and the world says, but I like insertion a lot better. So I define vaginismus as an involuntary muscle reaction of the pelvic floor or the vaginal wall muscles. A lot of times we'll see vaginismus described as like a contraction of those muscles or as a spasm, and I think it's a bit more nuanced than this. The muscles, yes, they can result in a contraction where those vaginal wall muscles, the pelvic floor muscles, constrict off. That's when you get the wall. That's definitely a part of this for some people. Occasionally I'll have a client who would describe their symptoms as that spasm, but I wouldn't say spasm is like the right term for what most women experience when they experience vaginismus. I've worked with clients or with patients in the past who've had spasms of various bicep muscles, and we see a different response than what the pelvic floor often gives us. And so I like the word reaction because it encapsulates, yes, that contraction where we get the wall response, but it also includes the pain response that a lot of us get. That's that burning, stinging, rubbing sensation. And so common symptoms that vaginismus can be described as is like that pain or discomfort during insertion or penetration. And that pain can feel like a burning, a stinging, a stabbing sensation is typically reported. Occasionally someone will talk about a pounding sensation, but usually we're sticking in that burning, rubbing, stinging, stabbing, which none of that sounds fun. There's also a lot of fear and anxiety around either sex or pelvic exams or tampon insertions, and so just anxiety can sometimes come with this. There's usually an inability or an increased pain with trying to insert things like tampons or undergoing a pelvic exam. That kind of just goes with it. We feel tightness, we might feel pressure in our pelvic floor muscles, and that's all related to it. And then the classic symptom is that hitting a wall. Whether that wall is just those muscles are closed or that wall results in pain. Both of those are pretty classic vaginismus. And then sometimes what's associated with this is difficulty or pain with orgasm. And unfortunately, there's an association and a link with that. It's not directly vaginismus, but it can be part of that package, unfortunately. I think the key to all of this is knowing that these responses are involuntary. They are outside your control. A lot of people think that vaginismus results from your vagina being too small, but it's not so much that your vagina is too small, it's that your pelvic floor muscles are a bit too apprehensive. Those muscles are just not sure if they're ready to accept something in because there might be this notion that there could be pain, or maybe there is pain, or that there's damage that might be happening, or insert whatever. Everyone's got a different reason, and some of us have no reason at all. So it's not so much that you're too small, it's that those muscles just aren't functioning the right way. They're either contracting or they're giving us a pain response. And so we need to retrain that response over time, and that takes some work, but it's totally doable. But it's important to just note that this is all happening involuntarily. It's not because you're choosing to close off. It's not because you're not attractive to him. It's not because you're not attracted to him. It's not you aren't aroused or able to enjoy pleasure, although that can happen as a result of vaginismus. All of this is happening outside of your control, involuntary. You are not choosing it. This reaction can happen with anything that's wanting to come into your vaginal canal. Classically, it can happen with tampons or menstrual cups. It can happen with going to the gynecologist and either doing a manual exam or that speculum entering into you. Or it can happen with sex toys and a penis. Anything that is potentially able to come in, your body can give that vaginismus response. Now, some clients are not able to get anything in. Everything's closed off. That wall, the pain is there for every single thing. Some clients can get everything in, but they get a pain response with something coming in. I do have some clients who are able to insert a tampon, but they can't get their husband in, or they're able to get their partner in, but they can't get a dilator in, or they can't get fingers in, but they can get a toy in. And so it's not universal across all spectrums that things can't come in. Your body can pick and choose what it wants to accept in, and then other things might get that pain wall response. So just know, just because you can get a tampon in doesn't mean that you're extra broken or it doesn't make sense. Every body is different. But our goal is to have a body that can allow anything that it chooses to come in. And so that's what I want to work with my clients on, getting their bodies to be able to accept things in. So there are some things that can make vaginismus worse. Forcing intercourse or penetration can definitely make this worse. It trains the body to associate pain with insertion, and that just reinforces that cycle. Fear of pain or injury can also make this more difficult, and that's hard because sometimes that fear happens like outside of our control. Anxiety seeps in, but the more anxious you are, the more your body tenses and the worse the pain will be. If you're a high functioning woman and just have a high stress lifestyle, for me, back when I had vaginismus, I was working in the medical ICU and it was intense, and I do think that contributed a lot to my symptoms. I have clients who are in very compassionate fields, but they are just overworked. And I do think that can contribute to a body that's not able to fully understand what's going on to relax better. Kegel exercises and some stretching and exercises are harder on the pelvic floor and can make truly getting that reverse Kegel relaxation not as functional and possible. And so we want to avoid doing exercises that are going to work on strengthening and tightening the pelvic floor, because we want to be able to get full range of motion. Any negative associations that you have with sex or insertion can also naturally fuel this. If you think that sex is going to be painful, if you think that a tampon could get lodged in you and disappear and cause toxic shock syndrome, all of that can contribute to vaginismus symptoms being worse. If you have an unsupportive partner that invites in emotional manipulation into the situation, definitely that's going to invite in anxiety. It's going to make your body go into a tense kind of fear mode, and it's going to make things close off and burn. That's something we need to kind of address. Any fears or shame that you have associated with body image, sexuality, or performance can all contribute to this as well. Vaginismus is actually pretty common. So vaginismus is actually fairly common. We just don't talk about it. According to a survey done by Sheila Ray-Gregor and her team, over 22% of evangelical women have experienced vaginismus. That's over twice the rate of those of the general population. So it's really common. We just don't talk about it, especially in faith-based circles. There's a lot of reasons to this. We have a lot of thoughts and things that guard us from being able to really open up and share, but we don't share about this. And it's been my story, it's many of my clients' story, and we need to do better to support our sisters in Christ to be able to have bodies that function the way that God designed them to be. So vaginismus can be primary or it can be secondary. Primary vaginismus is usually when it's been around most of your life. Maybe when you were first putting tampons in, you recognized, oh, that was not easy, that was painful. Sally can get them easily, I can't, what's up? Maybe going to the gynecologist was also a struggle for you. So primary vaginismus has been around for most of your life. Secondary vaginismus is when vaginismus comes on after you've been able to have something inserted successfully. Maybe you've had penetrative sex with no pain, no problem, or maybe you've been able to do tampons your whole life, but then for some reason sex hurts. And so secondary vaginismus is common. It happens oftentimes after childbirth. It can happen with menopause, or it can just come out of nowhere and just happen. And unfortunately, that's just a part of the fun of vaginismus. We don't always get to figure out why we have vaginismus. It's great if we can, but I don't like to waste a lot of time trying to pull back layers to figure out why. If something surfaces, we'll deal with it, but we just want to work on healing. And so my goal is to help clients kind of work through that so that they can get healing. Vaginismus can also be experienced at any of the 3 muscle layers within your pelvic floor. You do have 3 layers that kind of build that hammock of the pelvic floor, and all of them can experience that either contraction or pain response. And so we want to work through all of those layers to make sure every single layer feels safe, confident, and being able to accept things in without pain in the struggle. But the good news is that vaginismus is very treatable and it's curable. It does take quite a curated and comprehensive approach. We want to be able to target the various aspects that come to play with vaginismus. So we want to physically support your pelvic floor functioning. So that's things like exercises, releases, doing dilators. We also want to reframe any of those cognitive elements that might need to be tuned up so that your body can feel safe accepting things in. We also really want to target the nervous system. That's my favorite part, is doing a lot of the nervous system work to make our nervous system feel secure within itself. And then we want to accept insertion as something to be embraced, something that we're capable of and we like doing. So we have worked with hundreds of women to end the drama of vaginismus, whether it's being able to insert a menstrual cup for the first time confidently, or being able to conquer the gynecologist without a shutdown response, or enjoying amazing pain-free sex the way it's supposed to be. We are ending vaginismus once and for all, and it's a joy to be able to help clients get through that process. For me, it was life-changing being able to heal from vaginismus. I thought I was going to be like this forever. It took me 8 years to be able to enjoy intimacy, and so my goal is that it wouldn't take you as long. So when it comes to intimacy, we're not just making things possible and pain-free, we're making intimacy and sex something truly beautiful that we really long for, we love, and we enjoy, because that's the way God designed it to be. So if you're experiencing vaginismus and insertion or intimacy as painful and impossible, I want you to know that you are not alone and you are not broken. Vaginismus is treatable and you are worthy of pursuing healing. So you can experience a body that supports and works for you and enjoy intimacy the way it was designed to be. I would love to connect and hear your story. I would love to offer you just some hope and encouragement, and maybe even see if working together is the next step for you in your healing journey. You can schedule a free 30-minute consultation call on our website at painfreeintimacy.com. You are not broken, and you are worth healing.